Hi everyone and welcome to the PKPlus 2.5 webinar. We will be talking about our plug-and-play PK modeling software, PKPlus version 2.5 today. And we'll be going through a brief introduction of Simulations Plus as a company, of what PKPlus can offer as a plug-and-play PK modeling software, and a demonstration by our lead developer, Mark Vlieger. My name is Josh Foey. I am the Director of Operations at Simulations Plus. I joined the company right around 3 months ago, and one of my first tasks was to use my previous experience doing NCA and compartmental modeling to help build the next version of PK Plus, which is our 2.5. A little bit of background on Simulations Plus. We are a public traded company of right around 100 employees. We are 3 divisions of our company, Simulations Plus Inc., which is incorporated in 1996 and focuses on software development, PBPK modeling and simulation, and QSAR modeling, with our flagship software of GastroPlus and AdMet Predictor, helping clients both on the development side for their different programs using our software in their programs, but also on the consulting services side. Along with us, we have Cognition Corporation out of Buffalo, a full-service pharmacometrics group focusing across clinical development and population and PK/PD. We also have DILISIM Services, which joined us in 2015, a software development company with their NAFTALSIM and their DILISIM products in the systems pharmacology world. With Simulations Plus, you get an end-to-end solution for modeling and simulation across all your different phases of development. From discovery to preclinical and into clinical, you can see where all of our different software programs play in those different areas. Today we will be focusing on our PK Plus software, which a lot of our clients are using from early PK screening into their toxicology programs within their preclinical development, and all the way as they go into their different stages of their clinical development to do their non-compartmental and compartmental analysis needs. Why PK Plus? We like to think that we have a combination of sophistication and simplicity that does allow you to be plug and play into the needs of your particular company. So on the sophistication side, we have powerful NCA and compartmental tools. We have a very nice data visualization tool to be able to review your data, be able to make exclusions, be able to take a look and see how you want to group the different data to make your decisions within your program. Mark will be giving a demonstration on the NCA in the data visualization, as well as the different routines for being able to output your different parts of your reporting. New within the sophistication stage are CDISC packages. Many of our clients are starting to not only use the PC files as their source data for their NCAs, but they're also starting to use all of their different data packages throughout their development to be in that format, to be consistent with their data visualization tools. We also are now compatible within a 64-bit window operating system. And we are also starting to do improvements to the auto reporting and the command line script options, both of things that Mark will also be able to demonstrate. So how does this benefit you and your company? Within industry, we have a lot of partners that are using it to generate quick, accurate PK study reports. Whether you have a single dose study or multiple dosing regimens, our software can be able to handle all of those different scenarios. You can also be able to reuse your custom settings to be able to do quick analyses, and then be able to do different fitting techniques across 1, 2, or 3 different compartments to get a quick read on how you might be able to want to model your data and be able to move your programs forward. Within academia, we have a fair amount of students and professors that are using it within their programs to be able to teach real-world environment to their students, and being able to use a software that is going to have all the same fundamentals that you need to be able to do from your learnings. Every PK Plus license is treated as a floating seat. There are really no optional models or upsells within our software, and the user licenses are at a fraction of the cost of a lot of the competing tools. We also have a dedicated development team providing rapid support to your needs. And that's a big thing that I think we'll point out consistently within this webinar is, a lot of the upgrades from the CDISC to the auto reporting to the command line are things that were requested from our industry and our academic partners. And so we have a large focus on continuing to improve this tool and look forward to having everybody get to use version 2.5 and continue to give that feedback so that we can continue to increase the features in the next versions. So what we'll start with here is a PKPlus version 2, just a little bit of a refresher about some of the functionality. And then we'll pop into the demo that Mark is going to give and be able to kind of see it in action and be able to demonstrate some of the new functionality. So in PKPlus, for a lot of the features in version 2, just a little bit of a review, a lot of point and click within the guided user interface. A lot of this is intended to make it easy for consistent NCA. So with a lot of the other tools that are used throughout the industry for different compartmental and non-compartmental analyses, there is a lot of different ways that the users can stray in within the workflows themselves. And the ease of our user interfaces makes for very consistent analysis across the different individuals who may be doing the analysis, still allowing for some of the flexibility that we'll demonstrate in the demo. We are compatible with most of the common data file formats, CSVs and XPTs, Excel files, and as we mentioned before, the format of the send data that we'll be demonstrating. There's easy setup of the analysis data, so being able to filter out the data that's unneeded, being able to use the BLQ engine to be able to replace and go towards however you replace them for your particular standard operating procedure. Point and click exclusions, which is actually a really nice feature to be able to play with your data and do your statistics both ways as you visualize what may be with potential outliers. And then really that reported quality output of those tables, figures, and lists as you move through. The easy command line functionality for that high throughput analysis, I think that's something that would be of major value for the groups that are doing that high throughput screening, and you're going to have the same set of analysis criteria for each ones where you're going to use the same BLQs. You're going to group the data the same way. You want the same output of the tables, figures, and lists. To be able to use that as a command line functionality and just connect right into your data and generate an output within seconds is something that Mark's going to demonstrate, and is something that we're seeing a lot of good uptake with our partners with. All right, so PKPlus is connected on the back end to a database repository. So as you're creating a project, you're going to save the data and the project back into the database. You can then at any point be able to close out of that particular project and open the project back up. The connection to the database will take you through as part of the demo, and you'll see some of the connectivity back to that database as we're running through the different screenshots here as well. Like any data set, it's going to be coming usually from a multitude of different sources, whether it be Deborah or Watson or some other LIMS system. And so it's very common to get the data with multiple different namings within your columns themselves. So PKPlus has a mapping screen, which Mark will show you is in the demo, where you can take your previously named data, load it in, and be able to map to the user defaults within the PKPlus system. So there is some flexibility to be able to rename to your standard source column names and be able to add those within these file mappings themselves. Once you get the file mapping done and you get the data loaded in, you can see that there is some file information as far as the map data, the file columns, the rows themselves. And this is the step that you're going to then save it back to that particular database, and then your data has been cleaned up and ready to go into some of your visualization engines and your NCAs themselves. So here is once you have your data loaded, here is a screen cap of a data preview. So there's multiple different ways to be able to group your data. You can take a look at your data by subject. You can take a look at by the different groups based on your demographics. You then can start to select different subjects and view those particular subjects of interest. So You may be interested in only taking a look at just the FASTed data or the Fed data together and starting to do those visualizations. And so we have the flexibility to be able to group different subjects if you want to compare them across within the visualization engine, or if you actually want to just be able to compare by different groups and then start to parse apart your data to understand what's really going on and what things you might need to be able to consider as you do your analysis itself. Here is the actual visualization tool. So as we start to do the data profile and the statistics, this is where you can be able to select the different profiles that you added from that previous screen and start to say, all right, what do my actual profiles look like? Where could I potentially then start to see some of the variability within my data? What would it look like if these statistics were parsed out by just 2 animals or 3 animals, and I can start to say, is there a potential outlier? There also is an opportunity, as we'll see as we move forward, to talk about our BLQs, talk about our exclusions, and what are those types of different things that would be unique to that particular analysis or that data set itself. So here is the NCA or the analysis tab. And so you can see that there are all of the things that you would need to be able to start doing your analysis. So whether it is doing a filter of some data that you want to take out, some BLQs, or being able to do the exclusions themselves. So these can be done once you visualize your data and be able to point and click. You can also add these filters as you go within the screen itself. Within the NCA, you have all of your different routes of administration, your doses, your body weights, whether it's going to be a single or a multiple dose, and then all of the different AUC methods that would be useful to be able to run your NCA itself. Here's a example of the BLQ engine. So if you were going to click on that particular BLQ, this would pop open and you'd be able to apply your SOP rule. So whether you treat them as missing, whether you treat them as 0 or half the LLOQ, and then are you going to be looking across a full profile range? Do you treat them differently before or after a particular Cmax has been observed? Even you can throw in your reason for your different criteria that you've put in there and documented within the PKPlus audit trail. This is an example of being able to right-click within that visualization tool and being able to exclude that particular point. So if you were looking across your profiles and you saw something that looked like potentially an analytical error or something that just looked like an outlier as you were starting to play with your statistics, it is really point and click and then being able to add comments within here for the exclusions that you made that can also come back in your reporting on the back end. So really a way for you to track why, when you're throwing out certain pieces of data, the reasons for that, and then be able to report on the back end. All right, so the analysis tab, going back through with the option to do the NCA models. So to run an NCA, you're going to select the analysis data set. Like most NCA softwares, you're going to be able to go through and select all of the different terminal slopes of which you would like to do it. So you can set that range or be able to go in and select them automatically for the different profiles. And then be able to figure out the rest of the model settings. And ultimately, when you're ready to go, hit the run on the NCA. And this is the result window from that particular NCA that we were talking about. So those 4 profiles, we got all of the different parameters that we would expect to be outputted. Within your reporting, you can choose these different parameters of which you would want to output. Some may just help you to kind of visualize the data. If you're R-squared for your linear regression, you need to report out, and sometimes they do, sometimes they don't. You can also see the fits of the profiles here, as far as when you were doing your slope fits and the points that were used for those. And then there's the descriptive stats that you would expect to see along with that visualization at the bottom for these. If you're going to be doing compartmental PK, it's really simple to hook up with the same data. You can choose a couple different model settings through here. So whether you want to fit on individual profiles, or whether you want to fit just a 1, 2, or 3 compartment, or if you want to try to fit all of those models at the same time. That's a really nice feature to be able to try to fit all 3 without having to do separate runs of those. And then, do you want to fit a mean profile, or do you want to fit it as just an individual profile? Once again, there are some different dose selections, some different weighting scales that you can use for there, and then try to kind of figure out if you want to input potentially some of your initial values from your NCA into that to help with the fitting. You certainly can do that as well. So when you would complete all of your model settings, you would hit the run compartmental analysis, and similar to the NCA window, you have the visualization engine of your results themselves. So your parameters in the middle panel, your descriptive stats down at the bottom, and then you can choose which data you want to present between the observed, the 1 compartment, 2, and 3, and see which is the best fit that's going to essentially be the one that you'll move forward for your reporting. Within the results tab then itself is where you start to figure out the path that you'd like to take to report your results out. So if you are going to select the list of tables and figures, those can be run with an auto report button that you see down here below. So we have some predetermined individual figures and mean plots and summary PK concentration tables and parameter tables that you can run in an auto report. You could also make a custom report where you're going to be able to choose the parameters that come out, choose which potential graphs you'd like to see, and have some flexibility for your reporting out for your particular report template or Excel output that you're going to report your results in. Here is an example table, is a list of individual PK parameters as spit out into a docx file. Here is some example of some plots as well that are going to come out as far as a standard table and figure listing. Mark will show some of the improved auto reporting, some of the plots and the tables as we go through the demonstration. You can see some of the different views that you can get of your data within a very quick amount of time. All right, so what is new in PKPlus version 2.5? We went through a few of them as we were highlighting the simplicity and the sophistication, but just to recap, one big thing is compatible with all the 64-bit window operating systems. As people are starting to upgrade those systems, we wanted to ensure easy installation of our PKPlus tool. As more of the industry is shifting to being compliant for not only their regulatory packages, but also for their data mining, we thought it was important to be able to have PKPlus compatible with PC as those source files, but also being able to merge it together with some of the other domains. And so Mark will show some of that in his product demonstration as well. We do have improvements to the auto reporting as far as the graphical interface that spits out on our auto reports, and also improvements to the command line processing. So when you do have those same reports that you're going to be running fairly consistently, we'll show you in the product demonstration how to connect that in with the command line and be able to very quickly generate those NCA results. We also had cleaned up some bug fixes within this version, and looking forward to demonstrating the product for you. So with that, I'm going to hand it over to Mark Flieger, and he will give us the next stage of the product demonstration. So let me make Mark the presenter here. And Mark, the stage is all yours.
All right, thank you, Josh. So I'm going to go through, like you said, kind of a run through of the standard features just so we see the workflow and the design of the software. And then I'll show a few of the newer features as far as how to import a package and a little bit of the improvements to the reporting as well as the command line. So first thing we're going to do is just kind of create a new project. So when PKPlus starts, you log in, you're presented with the main screen. So to create a project, you click the button and you name the project. So I'll just call this one 2.4 webinar. And once the project's created, you'll be presented with a blank screen starting with a file. So the first thing you need to do is bring in some source data. So I'm just going to open a source file. And in this case, I have it stored in a folder here. I'll just have my webinar. And the first thing that comes up is edit input data. This gives you a chance real quick to get rid of any extraneous data you have. Maybe there's some title data and you want to exclude a row or change your which row is used as your header. You can exclude a column or a row just to clean up your data a little bit. In this case, this data is pretty clean. So we're just going to say, okay, gets loaded into raw data. Again, just a table view to have a quick overview. And as far as mapping the data, you can add a variable individually one at a time, or you can load a stored map. So in the case of this one, I have a map called webinar, and you'll notice it maps my variables for me. So I can do it manually, or I can have it saved. And when you have a map you like, again, for the high throughput, if you use the same variable and column names, you can save that map and load it for later use. You can also change the display name of the map. So I'll change sub to subject or whatever you like, name them to what you prefer. Once you have your map selected, you just hit the apply map button and it shows you your map data. Gives you one more chance to look at the data, and you'll also hear it says no issues found. It may say it found non-numeric data in concentration. That tells you you'll have some BLQs or some exclusions to look at. Just a heads up as you're looking at your map data. Once you have that, you hit save to database. And again, the database is parsed into subjects and groups and individual profiles. So as Josh outlined, you have a couple ways to view your data, either as subject or as groups. So when PKPlus parses that data, it does a quick look at your data and automatically generates groups. So by some key features, series, sex if you have it, row, the root, dose, and you'll see that these are already grouped for you. So you can modify the filters, remove filters, use them as a starting point by copying and adding filters as you like. In the case of all, we've got these four here. As he was showing, your visualization engine live updates as you make selections. So only the items that are selected are used for the tables and the plots and the statistics. And any one of these areas, you can right click, save the image, or save the data to the clipboard. And this is pretty consistent through the program. When the visualization engine comes up, the data is presented in a very consistent and familiar way as you move along. So after you've done some data exploration and you've figured out what groups you want to use, you can move them over to the analysis side. So if you have a group already set up, you can just select it, copy it to the data set. I called that one all, and it copies it over. Now you can stay here and copy multiple at a time, or you can go and run one and go back and go back and forth if you'd prefer, or you can do all of your grouping and send it over. And once you have your data set, in order to use it on an NCA, you need to decide, obviously, the settings you're going to use, but also the terminal slopes you're going to use. And this is also where you would want to take care of any BLQs or exclusions if you have any. You can add an exclusion simply by right-clicking on a point in the table or right-clicking on a point in the plot. When you exclude the point, you're going to be asked for a reason, and that reason will be displayed in the table. It's that easy. The data is there, it's just not used in analysis, and so you can see your exclusions while you're looking at your data. So once you've treated the data, you'll set your terminal slopes. So the initial method is how we're going to kind of prime it for you. So when I say auto, it's going to look through and try and find the best slope based on the R-squared and adjusted R-squared. This is your starting point. So you can add or remove in either the table and again in the plot to adjust it to your parameters, your preference. And each profile can be treated individually. And if you like the terminal slopes you have, you can just close the dialog and you're ready to go. So you've got your AUC method. You can pick from the four. Anything that isn't mapped, you can supply or override. To add a partial AUC, you simply enter the begin and end time, add the range, and when you're ready to go, you press run NCA and your results come up that quick. You'll see each profile again as I select them, the stats, summary, and plot update. If I select them all, they're all included. You'll see your partial AUCs. Everything's presented for you in a single screen, following the same conventions as we did before. So it's very consistent, very easy to use. Again, right click to save any of the data. Once you've run an analysis, you can reuse that data set, but you cannot make any changes. So once the data set has been used, it is locked, and that goes back to the database backend. Now we can fetch that result at any time, and we'll see the slopes we use, any exclusions we use. That copy of the data set is locked. So we have an end-to-end match between the source data, our data set, and the results. That doesn't change. And that's true with compartmental. It's the same thing. We always keep that data. Once you've won a result or an analysis and you want to see a result, when you select the result you want to look at, it gives you a quick overview of the settings. Again, a simple double click here, you can view it, make sure this is the one you want to use. You can add notes, delete it if you don't want to use it, free up that data set if you realize you made a change, and away you go. So when you're ready to generate a report, you have a couple choices. You can do the auto reports, which are pre-made, formatted ones. You select the ones you want, or the custom reports, which allows you a little more flexibility as far as which parameters and in which order to export them into your tables and whether you want plots. So first I'm going to show the auto reports. So I'm just going to select all the reports. I'm going to check this box so it'll open the folder, hit the button, and it's going to ask me where to save them. So I'm just going to put them in my results folder, select the folder, and you'll notice it's generating the reports. When each of the reports have been generated, it'll open the folder for me and I can take a quick view. You'll see by the names that it's by analysis number, kind of gives you an idea of what you have. Some individual plots in a Word doc. You'll have a linear, a log and a semi-log view, or linear and semi-log, as well as the table of data that matches for each of the individual profiles in the analysis set. As well at the bottom, you'll kind of get a total plot for each of them, just so you can see each one in relation to each other. Along with that, you'll get a list of concentration and times, your individual parameters, and it also generates an Excel workbook here with each of those reports in a tab. So it'll come up with the table of contents. You'll get your list of individual parameters, your summary of concentration, your list of individual concentrations, and you'll see it automatically groups the data in some common groups, so you can take a look at these, and these are all connected to the data, so you can modify them just like you would in any Excel workbook. And that's true of all of the analyses you run, the NCA or the compartmental. It'll generate these reports. If you want to do a little more custom report to fit your SOP or the ones you're most concerned with, you can choose a custom report. And what that'll do is bring up the custom report generator. And from here, you would select which one of the map variables or the profile variables you want, as well as which parameters you want to send to your data. You can adjust the order as well as some other items as far as filtering and some options. And these options can be saved, much like the mapping, or loaded for reuse. And it's the same thing. You load a settings file, and you'll notice it pulled in the ones I was concerned with here. And my analysis, in this one, I'm only looking at the AUCs as well as the partial. It will preload a common output path and a file name. So I'm going to change the path for this one back to my results folder since I have it open. And we'll say custom report. Report 1. You'll notice I have multiple file types selected, same thing, tables, CSV, Excel. If I had time and concentration, I would get the plots. So when I generate the report, that click of the button, when this comes back, now my reports are generated. And so I can go look at each of those data, each of the format, and the table is in the order I requested, as well as I had the statistics turned on, so those will get added as well to the report. So all of these settings can be saved and reused. You can load one, add or remove reported variable you'd like, and save that as another copy. So you can always load this as a starting point or load it for your common use. So that's kind of a run through of the end-to-end of how PKPlus is used. It's all very easily point and click. The menus are not real deep, easy to understand, and the visualization engine is consistent and easy to use. So what I'm going to do is close that project and create another one just to kind of give an example of the send input. And what we'll do here is create a project, but we want to pull our PC data in. And what I'm going to do is pull up the send dialog. Now you have a couple choices. You can point to a package if you had it. It'll read the define XML and look for the domains we support as far as the PC and some of the other demographic and exposure domains. In this case, you can also select just the ones you have. So I'll select PC and I have just the domain set, and I'll select PC. And when I select it, if I have a PC, I can merge the data and it comes in, gets rid of any empty columns, and gets the data ready to go into PKPlus. I can save this file and load it right in. But if I have a few more domains or just one more, whatever I need, I can select that domain and I can hit merge. And if I look at the end, I should have my demographics. And you can continue to do this, save as you go if you want to make different files for whatever reason, or you want to save the file and edit it, that's fine. That's all done before we import it into our project. So I'm just going to load the rest of them so we have our data and kind of give an example of what the merged data would look like. So now that I've merged it, you'll see the data got much longer. I've got my additional columns for my exposures, my weights, and the rest of my demographics. So once I have it, the data I'm happy with, I'm just going to save the file. And I'm going to put this back in my source file just to keep it consistent. And I'll just call this one merged. Now that I've saved my data, I'm done here. I'm going to import that data. So I'm just do the same thing. I'm going to open a save file, a source file, just like I did before, merged. I'll get my edit dialog. If I see a little data I want to change or a missing data I want to fill in, this is my chance. I'll click OK. Raw data, same thing. My file mapping, I can load a map. And this map here is an example. It's distributed with the program to kind of make it easy. It has the common columns already laid out for you. So you notice it pulled those in, lined them up, apply map. In this case, this word oral isn't defined. I just match it to my XRS route. I get my chance to look at my data, and here you'll see that it's saying non-numeric columns because it looks like I have some LLQs here in my table. I can deal with that in just a minute. So when I save to database, it's going to take this file and do the same thing. Break it into subjects, profiles. I'll get my groups based on what was loaded and mapped. I've got gender. So I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to copy this over real quick and just let you see that it's going to follow the same process as we did before. In this case, I have a point that I'm going to want to exclude, but I know that I have more of these in this data set. So what I can do is treat that whole data set with a BLQ. So I'm going to add my BLQ for LLQ. I'm just going to impute a 0. I'll do it to the full profile, and I can add a reason. So when I hit OK, you'll see that the BLQ is up. When I look at the data now, you'll notice it's got a 0 It flags it as a BLQ, and it tells me it was replaced. So this is not touching the original data. This applies to just this data set. So you can have a copy of this data set and treat it differently for each one. And from then on, everything's the same. It's treated like all the other data we have. We can run our terminal slopes, our NCA, all of that's the same. Makes it very easy to pull in a single or multiple domains, merge the data if it's compatible, and pull it right in and move along with your normal process as you did. In the new version of PKPlus 2, there's a little more additions to the command line. And I'm going to kind of give a quick example of the command line. Originally, the command line was created as part of our verification package that when you install the software, you run this verification package, and it just makes sure it runs about, I think, 25 to 30 analyses, compares results, makes sure they match what you should be getting. So what we did is we extended that out and made a command line utility. So what I can do now is I'm just going to run this, and it's going to ask me for my password. I'm going to enter my password, and you'll notice it's creating a project. It's mapping my variables. It's creating a data set, and it's running an analysis. So now if I go open PKPlus, it'll ask me to log in as it did before. And once I log in and open projects, now you'll see I have my webinar command line example. And here, I'm going to have a full project. I've got my mapping, all of my data, an analysis, my results. All of this can be done on a single command line. So you can use the command line to start projects if you always have the same mapping, same data sets, and you want to get it up to the point of running an analysis, you can automate that. Or you can automate the full end. If you have projects and you want to do common reports, you could call the command line just to generate reports. Any part of that major workflow can be automated. And with just a little bit of scripting, you can also run it on multiple. So I'm going to run one more here, but I'm going to put the right password in this time. And you'll see it's going to connect, and it's going to go through the same process. But what I've done is I have a simple script that's going to run through 3 different drugs and create 3 projects, run analyses, and spit out reports. So if I go to my results folder, you'll see I've got results for all the ones I've run, my webinar, and all of my drugs in a simple one-click operation. So I hope I've covered enough of the new features in a way you're able to benefit from. And if you have any questions, please feel free to contact us. At that point, I'm going to turn it back over to Josh to go ahead and close out the demonstration.
Thank you, Mark, for presenting the different options within PKPlus and the new functionality as well. I'm going to head back to my PowerPoint here and just finish with a quick summary. To summarize the additions within PKPlus 2.5, as Mark just demonstrated, there is some really nice functionality of being able to load in a PC source file, but also being able to load in a full send package and be able to get your body weights and your demographic and your exposure information, your dose information. Really point and click, not a whole lot of fuss to being able to load those in and be playing within your NCA very quickly. Also, he noted a lot of the additions to that command line processing of being able to do, large batches of data and getting it to any point within your analysis. So whether you want to get, just a quick setup into that NCA window with all of the same, file mappings and things like that, so then you can, play with your slopes, or whether you want to just do a couple streamlined auto reporting with, some different features within there, what you want the reports to spit out, all the way through to the TFL generation. A lot of folks are using it that way as well. some differences in the operating system, some bug fixes, and really, we're trying to make sure that, once you get the PKPlus version 2.5 in your hands, that you're going to be off and running very quickly. So there's a few final questions to ask yourself. What are you using as your current tool? What are the prices associated with that? We're fairly confident that we've created a out-of-the-box software that is going to be able to be cost effective, is going to be able to still use a floating license to allow for some flexibility within your folks that may not be an everyday user for NCA and your compartmental analysis, but still have the opportunity to pop in and do the data visualization and be able to very quickly generate reports that are going to be able to go off into your different team meetings. So as you ask yourself, is my current software doing the basic PK operation do I need? Another question that we get is, how much more functionality do we really use, and what is going to be needed to, overcome a really long learning curve as you onboard different software programs? And so, I do think that is an advantage of our PKPlus tool, is that pretty quickly out of the box we have you up and running and being able to generate those NCA results. And so, what are you paying for within those different platforms? The honest answer is we think will lead you to PKPlus. Here is some additional information as far as where you can go on our website. So simulationsplus.com /PKPlus. Mark and I are always willing, as are the other members of our team, to answer your questions and be able to pop into your company to do a demo and talk about our licensing structure, whether that be the software agreements themselves, so the fees for the software, and even just have you evaluate and say, what else can we do with the next stages of our development to help make sure that PKPlus can meet your needs. With that, I'll thank you for your time for tuning into this webinar today. Have a good rest of your day, and we hope you check out PKPlus.